So, Brian, what's your take on how this all played out?
Well, I've had some discussions with my colleagues over the course of the past couple of weeks, and we all agreed it was going to be something of a toss-up. It does actually look like former president-elect, current president-elect Trump is going to win the popular vote, which is going to be the first time since 2004 that a GOP candidate wins the popular vote. But it does appear certainly that a lot of the trends that some people had seen in the Midwest and some people had thought they were seeing in other parts of the country, some held and others didn't.
Why do you think it was such a landslide for the former president?
Well, I think a couple of things. The first is one good indicator about where an election is going to go is that classic question: do you think the country is moving in the right direction? And pretty consistently for the past few years, the answer has been pretty negative for a lot of voters. The other thing, again, is the critical issues that we've talked about in the past of inflation, questions pertaining to immigration. Those are very powerful motivators in terms of how the electorate makes their decision.
I don't know if you've been able to do a deep dive, but as far as how he won,
Yeah.
what were there any groups, any segment of voters that maybe most folks would not normally expect who maybe turned out for him? Or I don't know if you
I
can.
don't think so. It's at least we don't know yet. One of the things that has changed a lot is that age gap, right? So amongst younger people, Biden won people under 30 by a pretty considerable margin. Trump did not win them, but he closed that gap quite a bit. And one of the things that I really think might have had a factor there has to do with young men who've kind of really swung really heavily towards the GOP in this electoral cycle. And I think that that might have been the one area, but I don't know that that's much of a surprise. I think there'd been some discussion about that group kind of turning out for Trump or for GOP candidates in general for the past couple of years.
I'm trying to think back as far as somebody who, and I don't know, I'm trying to think of the right way to say this, somebody who has had a significant impact on presidential politics like Donald Trump has had. I mean, this is, I mean, people are going to be talking about him for years and years when you're studying presidential history. How big a deal is Donald Trump in the grand scheme of things?
I think you've got to say that the scoreboard indicates that he's had a pretty transformative effect on American politics in our moment. And there could be a lot of reasons why, but one of the things that's really happened is that he's really transformed that Republican voting coalition, where it really is now kind of a movement that is oriented more towards working class voters. That's a group that historically had been so pro-Democrat. And, this is a really interesting thing. Historically, we've always said that in high turnout elections, Democrats win. And I think to an extent that might have been because it would indicate a high turnout for working class people. I think actually that high turnout elections are increasingly looking like they're starting to favor Republicans. And that's going to really make some kind of interesting discussions for political scientists.
What do you think we will see from a Trump second term?
Well, I think that there are obviously things that President Trump wanted to complete from his first term. Most likely, it's going to be something pertaining to immigration reform, which I think will be significant. The other thing I think that we're also going to see is the attitude towards foreign intervention and foreign policy. Donald Trump has been historically pretty suspicious of multilateral sort of alliances and arrangements. He's a businessman. I think to his mind, it's that kind of one-on-one deal that is what works best. I think that's something that he might try to pursue again, particularly as it pertains to issues of security and trade.